Hello and welcome to another episode of the djproject Criterion Collection. And here we're going to talk about Spine 565, The Great Dictator, directed by Charles Chaplin, 1940. Now as far as me and Chaplin, I know that's going to sound like a shock. Wait, Derek, you're supposed to be like this great movie aficionado. Like how... What do you mean that you've only seen two Chaplin films, this and Modern Times? And actually I've seen The Great Dictator prior to it being issued by Criterion. You know, it's on the one hand it's probably no excuse, but on the other it's just a matter of, I believe in timing and a lot of these things. It's what piques your interest at a certain point, who's around and who may get you to watch certain things, and there's a big world of cinema to explore, and Chaplin is going to be around as far as films, so is everything else for that matter, so all in due time, all in due time. But anyways, The Great Dictator, bottom line, just get this. At the very least, see this. It really set another way. It set a course for another way of dealing with Adolf Hitler. There were those who were seduced by him, and that's something that often gets overlooked in regards to Hitler. This is not someone who came in with tanks and started blowing away and ruled with an iron fist. This is not what happened in Russia. This is not what happened in Spain. This is not what happened in Chile and other locales. This was Hitler ascended to power through seduction. And people were seduced by what he had to say, what he had promised, what he wanted Germany to be, and the Germans more or less bought it hook, line, and sinker. And not just them. Hitler was quite popular and respected in the 30s. They had some reservations on other things that came about, but and then there were certainly those that saw what he did and wanted to flee from it and try to warm as much as possible. But most of the world was kind of complacent, and then until it was too late. So when this came out in 1940, it was very clear that he was so bent that Europe was at war, and there was maybe the possibility of America being pulled into it. I mean, it was a very mixed bag. Some people wanted to go into it, others didn't, but it was not a pretty sight. So what do you deal with? How do you deal with this man? And there's the obvious reaction of just being completely outraged and just saying, oh, it's easy to hate Hitler. It's easy to if you have any kind of, certainly if you believe in the dignity of human beings and that human life has value, of course you're going to hate Hitler. But why not mock him? And this is the course that Chaplin took. In fact, it came about when he saw saw The Triumph of the Will, and to give you, and this is actually a really, really good example. René Clair saw this and was completely outraged. It's like, this film should never be shown, otherwise it's all will be lost. But Chaplin, on the other hand, just laughed, just thought it was utterly ridiculous. And I think, and when you see The Great Dictator, I think it's easy to see what made him laugh. It's the pomposity of it. It's it's this belief that you are greater than where you actually are. It's the delusion of grandeur, and this 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 notion that you are a god, that you are the greatest thing to ever the greatest human being to ever walk the earth. It was just the sheer pomposity that must have made him laugh, and that was really the basis of the Great Dictator. The Great Dictator really is largely it's a comedic. I mean, it's split between two different characters. One, you get the nation is fictional. It's Tomania, and you have you have two characters that are both played by Chaplin. One who's just referred to as the Jewish barber. In fact, the very beginning is it was set in World War One, and it's classic Chaplin as far as slapstick and comedy in there. And then after the war, the Jewish barber. He's never given a clear name in it, but he goes about his life, and then another soldier will eventually become the dictator Tomania. This is Henkel, also played by Chaplin, and there are a lot of great iconic moments. The very first speech that he hears, you hear this macaroni impression of German. Just it's when you fake German, and it's done very, very convincingly. And then a voiceover provides a very succinct translation, even though he can go on talking about Wiener Schnitzels and Bratwurst and so forth, and whatever other German or German-like words you can throw in. There's that. Then there's also the famous scene where he is he fancies himself as the dictator of the world, or he finds the thought of being dictator of the world to be very fun, and so he ends up dancing with an inflatable globe, and it's just yeah. So it cuts back and forth between him running the nation in a very comedic fashion, and then the Jewish barber who gets caught in with Henkel's policies, and a lot was said about the way that he treated the Jews, and so there's elements of persecution. There's even a resistance movement that comes in, and then finally, in kind of a prince and a pauper situation where the Jewish barber is mistaken for Henkel, and so he ends up being in Henkel's position. And he takes this opportunity to make, I think, one of the best political speeches not made by a politician. It's one of the it's very, very stirring. It's very moving. It's a wee bit idealistic, and there are a few very minor problem areas. Talking about how science and progress can lead to the benefit of all leading to the unity of mankind, and the problem I have with it is that it shares sentiments that are similar in some, not the same, not equal, but similar to the fascists and to the Nazis, and it's a very, very thin line where if you stray but a little, you end up going down this really, really dark path. But all that said, it's still a very moving speech. Again, probably the best political speech given by a non-politician. So anyway, the point of all this is that this is Hitler being mocked, and it really did set the stage for future parodying of Hitler, such as Mel Brooks' The Producers, which is my favorite of Mel Brooks' films. Though I will have to say that there is a danger of overdoing it, of over-parodying. If you laugh at him too much, you're easily blinded to the threat and the danger to it. So you don't want to overdo it. So I mean, it's all about balance, and this film I think does that really really well. It's ultimately it's a comedy, and in pretty much, and not just in the obvious sense of having slapsticks and jokes and parodies and such, but also there's also a sense of things can go right. Although it's a bit open ended. Again, this was made in 1940, so it was not really sure whether it will end on a happy ending. But it ends on a hopeful note. So so it's certainly not dour and serious, but it's ultimately a comedy. But I think it has both really well. So. Again, bottom line, if you haven't seen this, go see it. If nothing else, those particular scenes that I mentioned, pretty much anything with Hinkle and the way that he does things and runs things. He has two main advisors, Herring and Garbage, which he occasionally says it as garbage. Yeah, that's subtle. Just if you haven't seen this, go see it. So, yeah. The Great Dictator. And until next time, take care.